Hi, this is Jeff. This is going to just be a video, hopefully only 15 minutes long or less, to demonstrate this how to make a quest log or a task list in Visionaire Studio with a scroll pane. There's probably a lot of other ways you could make a quest list or a quest log with different advantages or disadvantages to each one. A scroll pane is just going to be pretty bare bones once you figure it out. You can't click on anything. It is pretty nicely customizable, but there would be ways to do this with potentially the inventory system or the dialogue system, but I have not bothered to do that, so I went with a scroll pane. I'll just give you a quick look at what it ends up looking like. The scroll pane is just everything underneath the word quest log, and I'll show you why in a second. To about here where the cursor is, over to these arrows on the side, and then as I'm scrolling my mouse wheel up and down, you see this is also scrolling up and down here. So let's take a look at what's involved in getting this to work. You can disregard the graphics on the left side. That's temporary. QuestLog itself here at the top is just a temp graphic. It's not part of the scroll pane. So the scroll pane is really just what you see moving, and it's a way to draw text on the screen. It's technically not even associated with this interface, and that's what this big open journal is. It's just an interface. Excuse me. But it does let you do things like define different types of entries. So in this case, I have main tasks, which are the big ones. These are uncompleted subtasks. The green items show you completed subtasks, and then we'll take a look at a couple other types of entries that I have. But let me just run you through kind of what's involved in building this out, and then we'll look at each element in a little more detail, and all the scripts and stuff I will link in the Visionaire Discord. So if you're not a member of that, you'll need to find that and get added. Everything needed to make a scroll pane. I'm going to show you the interface real quick. So that's the menu. So you can see everything underneath QuestLog gets drawn in every time this journal is opened. This involves basically, let's say, 4 to 5 components. The first one is a definition script, which defines the function draw QuestLog. And very, very briefly, and then I'll show you the other elements. We're just going to destroy any previous instance of the scroll pane. We're going to create a new scroll pane with these elements here, and we'll walk through this a little bit quicker in a moment. We're going to iterate through a table and figure out whether certain main tasks, subtasks, notes, or hints should be drawn or not, which is to say whether the character's been exposed to them yet or not, and they should show up in the book. And then at the very end of all this figuring is the command that actually shows the scroll pane each time around. So every time I open that menu, that book in the lower right-hand corner, it's going to destroy the previous instance, create a new instance of a scroll pane, figure out with all this iteration what is actually going to be written in the scroll pane, and then it's going to show the scroll pane itself. So the second definition script you need is a table. It's just named table. There's nothing special about this. It's just a definition script, and it's one single table here. I'll link this in the Discord, and you'll notice that, and just keep this in mind for later, any particular entry that's a 0 is not even going to be shown. Anything that's a 1 is something that the character has been made aware of and will show up in the book, and a 2 is going to be something for my particular script here, and you can use it too, which is completed. So here's what a table looks like, basically. Here's an example at the top of how it's structured, and you'll see that every type of quest has a parent main quest, which then contains any number of subtasks, and it can also contain notes or hints. These will follow the same structure. So if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that a note follows the exact same structure as a subtask, which is to say there's an ID, there's a text field, and there's a status field. This is a little bit misleading. In this case, and I'm sharing this because I haven't cleaned up this script yet. I mean, I'm sharing the script as it is, but status is not even used anymore. It's a relic, so I'll notice that in the Discord, or I'll notate it. But you do not need status. And text is really just a way to keep things straight. The scroll pane itself is not using this text field. It can't use it. It can only access elements that are already a text component of a Visionaire object, and this is not. This is just a string in Lua that I've named text, for each item. But I tried a million things, and I could not get the scroll pane draw function to use a piece of text from Lua. So what text does it use? And just for reference, let's just keep an eye on subtask number 1. It's meet the locals. Okay, so the ID is Q1ST1. So what does that mean? I'm going to jump over here to a character that I made called Questmaster, and all he does is he houses a comment set, and he houses a table of values here, like any other value. And every entry in that quest table we just looked at will correspond to one comment and one value. And the value, like I mentioned a minute ago, is going to control whether it is drawn in the book or not. So if this was a 0, it would not show up. As a 1, it will show up. And as a 2, it would be designated as completed, and it would be drawn in a different color. And then the comment itself. So this comment entry is the object, the Visionaire object. I don't think it's technically an object, but you know what I mean. It's an element in Visionaire that has a text field associated with it, and we'll look at that in a second. But the text field is meet the locals, and it's assigned to that same ID Q1ST1 that we mentioned for subtask number 1. So let's run the game again real quick, and we'll see that subtask number 1 in this case is actually a subtask of the main entry, which is enjoy the demo, right? That's quest number 1, meet the locals. It's just a coincidence that I named a second quest, meet the locals, a second main quest. This is just for the demo I'm setting up, so it's kind of these basic things. They're not real puzzles, but if you look over here on the right-hand side, you can still see the values behind the scenes. So quest 1 main, this Q1M up at the upper right, has a 1, so it shows. And what does that really mean? That means enjoy the demo, and let's minimize this. Enjoy the demo is the text associated with that, right? So that's what's showing up here as a main quest. And its 4 subtasks are over here. Q1ST1 through Q1ST4, they all have a value of 1 here. So they're all showing up. If you look down at quest 2 main, that is the main quest that's called meet the locals. And it only has a 2 and a 2 showing for these subtasks. ST is subtask, and that's why they are defined as being finished here. And I'll show you how that gets figured out in a moment. I'm going to close the game. This is actually an error here. Those should just be set to 0. -1 means nothing. Okay, so how does all this work? Let's go back to our scripting section, and we're going to scroll up to QuestLog. And everything runs as a function called draw QuestLog, right? So in my game, and yours is probably different, every time that my journal is open, that's going to call this bit right here. You don't need to worry about this. All I will point out is that it runs through this little section where it destroys the previous instance of the QuestLog. It runs through a few more items, it plays a sound, and then it calls the draw QuestLog function, right? So that is what actually starts this function. You'll just have to be careful, however your interfaces work, that anything, whether it's a keystroke, an on-screen click, or another action item that opens up your interface, which is going to contain your QuestLog, contains a call to this function. Now, because I am not confident that I'm going to catch every type of way that my journal can be open, I always delete the QuestLog first, right here. If you do not do this, the previous instance of the QuestLog itself will remain on screen even if the interface is closed, because it is not, like I said before, technically associated with the interface. So the first thing this does is creates the QuestLog object. I don't know if it's technically called an object in Lua, but what it is here is, we're setting a variable named QuestLog, so you can name this anything you want, and it's one of these graphics dot built-in functions. This creates a scroll pane, and then everything else is a property of that scroll pane that you're going to set here. You'll find this bit of code included in the Lua Docs webpage, but there's not a lot of documentation, so I've added some comments for the things I can figure out. This one, like buttons, I don't know what that does, and I know that always show scroll bar has to be set to true, or it just jacks everything up. So what are these? Padding is like a little buffer around your invisible rectangle. The rectangle itself is the bit where the text is drawn inside of, and you'll just have to play around with this. This is, as far as I can remember, this is actually on-screen positions. So you do not need to calculate based on screen scroll position. It's just the actual monitor itself. So mine is X at 1025. That's a little bit over halfway on my screen, which is why it's just to the right of the spine of that book. If I were to open it up again, you'll see that the X position where that rectangle begins is just a little bit past half. So this is at about that 1000 position. And then the Y is at 590, which is right about here. Actually, that seems a little small, but oh, I'm sorry. I thought it said 590. Yeah, it's 290, and then you set the width and the height of the rectangle itself, so that makes sense. This here is for, you could actually load up just a yellow rectangle or something as an image and play with it to see exactly where that rectangle, the background, is being drawn for your quest box. But it gets a little funny because if you create a graphic that's not the same size as the width and height that you are drawing your rectangle in, you might start to confuse yourself a little bit if it's either squishing it or not drawing the entire thing, or drawing it past your width and height, thereby sort of giving you a false sense of where your rectangle actually is. So be careful with that one if you start to draw a temporary background, just to see where your background is. The BG9R is for one of these 9-grid rectangles. You'd have to play around with that to get it working. The scroll is for a scroll bar. I have a scroll bar image loaded up with this viz path, but it's an invisible nothing image because I don't want a scroll bar. But you do need to have a scroll set and a always show scroll bar set to true in order to even make this whole thing work, or it starts making the other buttons break, and I don't know why. So I've got the arrows for scroll up, scroll down set. You'll have to get comfortable using viz paths. I'm not going to go into that in this video. And then I found that I needed to keep this set the way it was, otherwise it would break things. So these scroll up and scroll down buttons are the green arrows you saw on the side. Again, it's all just kind of temporary graphics at this point, but I would also point out that, yeah, my text looks a little blotchy, but that's because this is a pixelated game. So this is, if you load up a nice clear HD font, it's gonna look great. It's totally capable of looking crisp and modern. So then what it does is it just iterates. I'm going to highlight everything that's all kind of one block here. This whole shebang is just iterating through that table I showed you earlier. Again, and I'll share that example too in the Discord. It's basically processing one by one here. And it's saying if there's a main task and its value is set to 1, go ahead and process the rest of what's included in that main task. If there is a main task that's set to 0, it will not continue to process this object. So if a character has been exposed to a subtask and its value is set to 1, and again, that would be back in this character section under the quest master character. If that's set to 1, which technically means the character has been made aware of that subtask, but it's part of a main task they haven't been exposed to yet, it will not be drawn in the quest log. So a main quest has to be given a value of 1 in order for anything else to process. And then, again, just recall what I said. Everything's got an ID, but the text is technically just to help you keep things straight. This is not actually used. I just copy and paste this over from the comment set, just to help me keep this clear. And status is not used currently right now either, although if you could think of a way to use that on your own, go ahead. But let's jump back to the main code here. So it's basically going to iterate through the table, taking all those big chunks, defining them as a variable, and then grabbing the ID from each variable as we go down. So you'll see it's also going to be grabbing the ID from various subtasks and from various notes. And you can leave probably a lot of this code in place, and you'll just need to go in and update the parts that are relevant to your project. But as you'll see, it basically jumps over to the values section of that questmaster character. And since in Visionaire, a value with a unique ID name is globally accessible, this value is actually going to be value of, let's say, Q1M or Q3ST3. So as long as there's no other value in your game named that exact same thing, you're fine. We do want the comments associated with each value to have the same name, because that's how this references them, and you'll see that here. So it's referencing the value. Let's go back to the main task iteration, the value with that quest ID, and the comment set entry with that quest ID. And you'll see the name of the whole comment set is QuestLog set. That matches QuestLog set. QuestLog space is just an empty space, which I use after each iteration right here to just add a little bit of buffer space before the next main task. So assuming that there is a main task and it equals 1, it'll write that out in this font, QuestLog main task, and you can set your own font. This is the color. Be aware that Visionaire uses, what is it up here, BGR color as opposed to what, RGB? I forget. They're like reverse of each other or something. So you can find the codes for BGR colors up there at that link. You just get the traditional value if you're working in Sprite or whatever your graphics that you're used to, that hex value, and then go load it up into that website and it'll give you the BGR value for it. Okay, so if a main task is showing up, then it's going to come down here and it's going to process subtasks. It's just going to grab it. You can, figure out this code on your own, but it works. And if there's a 1, it's going to, for a subtask, it's going to draw it, and this is in my game, you might change it, in black with an open checkbox next to it. If it's a 2, meaning it's completed, it's going to draw it in, this is green, and it's going to put a check mark instead of just an empty checkbox. What do you need to keep in mind here? This value right here, gosh, I believe that's the indentation of the line itself. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And then this value is the offset for the little icon graphic either. So, right, we have a 50 right here in the X position. Okay, keep that in mind. And then a negative 15 right here, which is going to apply just to this graphic, this checkbox.png. Okay, let's open this up again. So my text box is basically right here where the cursor is. The main tasks are basically right at the edge of where that rectangle is that we talked about. You can see that for my main tasks, there is no offset right here. And there is also no image, which is what would go there. And there is no image offset, which would come here at the end of the image. So what does that mean? Remember that 50? That means that my subtasks are indented 50 pixels. And then that negative 15 you saw for the image itself means that this checkbox is actually being bumped back by a certain amount as well. And you just got to play with those numbers to get them just right, because they're not like really technically in line with each other. You just got to, and it depends how big your little icon or image is, so you got to play around with that a little bit, but it's pretty easy to do. After it processes the subtasks, it's going to go down and process the notes, which means that back in your quest table, again, it processes the main task, and it sees how many subtasks have a value of 1, but again, it's not technically the status, but it is this value where it exists under the quest master character. And then if you had a note, it would be here. So in this example, the note for number 2 would show if the value was set to just a 1 in this case for a note, because notes only have show or don't show. So let's turn that on and see what it looks like. Let's launch the game. Oh, already running. Oh, where's my note for number 2, right? It should be here. Let's just turn that on with the editor, and we'll watch it pop up. So I'm going to just kind of, where should I put this? Put this down here. This is going to be called Q2. You'll see here's my note entry. I'm just going to change that to a 1. And you'll see it doesn't show up yet because, like we mentioned earlier, this Scrollpane has not been destroyed yet and rebuilt. So if I just close this journal really quickly and open it, it will instantaneously appear. I'm going to have to scroll down real quick once I do to be able to see it. But so I'll close it, open it up again, and scroll down, and here's a note. So this is technically learn the troll's name. That is the note associated with the note for Q2, learn the troll's name, and the value, which, well, here it's not live in the game anymore, but that's what I had just set it to in the example. So Again, that's everything. I'm going to load this all up in the Visionaire Discord. Again, it comes down to calling the QuestLog function, the draw QuestLog function from wherever you open up your interface, destroying every instance of that QuestLog, no matter what, any time from anywhere in your game before you open up that QuestLog, destroy it first, rebuild a new one, run through this iteration. You'll have to just kind of study this a little bit and apply it to your own game. If you don't want notes and hints, you can just comment those out or delete them. And then after it processes everything, it just shows that quest log, right? So you're going to need this whole script. You're going to need a quest table, and you can go ahead and just make this easier for yourself by getting rid of status everywhere in the example I share. But this is going to end up being big, right? If you got a full-size, commercial game with 100 quests in it, you can imagine how this gets a little bit big. And I have not yet come up with a clever way to have this in an Excel file or something outside of Visionaire and then load it in, but that might be necessary. Okay, so other than this script also, which is just a table, then you also need to make a character with a QuestLog set comment set, a QuestLog space, if you want to do it the same way I did. And then for every quest entry, follow a naming convention like this and make sure there is both a comment set and a value added as well. I think lastly, the only thing I would say is that I tried a lot of different methods to try to figure out a way to have this just draw text right from my script. I couldn't do it. There are other options once you get past that and you say, okay, so it has to be a Visionaire object. Could I use a scene object or an interface button or a character or something? And for me, I just found the comment sets, which have text associated with them, are the nicest way to do this. This gets a little wonky because every time you update the text here, it automatically just updates the title, which is super annoying. So you got to finalize your text and then go back here and make sure that your actual entry itself is correct. Typos will kill the whole thing. So if you're running your quest log and it's just something's not showing up, you probably got a typo. And then you need the values over here that you set to probably at the beginning of your game 0 for everything. And then as your character goes along and learns new stuff, it's just a matter of in-game updating those values so they run. So check out the Visionaire Discord. This will be under the helpful content section, and I'll have all these scripts pasted there, basically just straight from my game. So you will have to go through and just edit them a little bit to make them fit for yourself, but you can ping me in there if you need some help. Okay, thanks. Sorry this is so long. Good night.